Did the Lakers expose the Denver Nuggets in their epic win last night? They absolutely destroyed Denver in Denver. After the game, Nikola Jokic, some very eye-opening comments about what this actually shows about the strength of the Denver Nuggets right now. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications as well. Joined by Donnie Freeman. Donnie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited that you're back. It feels
back.
like it's been a long time since we've done a video. It just wasn't the same without you. So really happy that you're back, and also really excited about that game last night. That was a great game.
Well, I appreciate you holding things down while I was out, and yeah, it was a great game. Certainly from the Lakers side of things, it was a great game. Maybe not if you're a Nuggets fan, but the Denver Nuggets had a 9-game winning streak coming into this game, and they find themselves in a pretty good spot in the Western Conference right now. Currently, they're sitting as the 3 seed. But Nikola Jokic said this after the game, suggesting that maybe the Lakers showed something about the Denver Nuggets that showed that 9-game winning streak was a bit misleading. This is what Jokic said. We had the 9-game winning streak against teams that were injured and teams that were not really good or high in the standings. Maybe we tricked ourselves into thinking we're playing good. I mean, brutal honesty there, I guess, right?
Yeah. That's certainly not something you would expect to hear, but I do appreciate the honesty and how candid he is with that.
And credit again, Michael Malone admitted that he got outcoached in last night's game as well. But is this, I mean, look, you look at the Nuggets schedule, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong when you look at who they've played. Their 9-game winning streak. Look, you can only play the teams that are in front of you. But if you were reading into the Nuggets going, the Nuggets are back. They beat Philly. They beat Charlotte, New Orleans, Orlando, Phoenix, Portland, Charlotte. Not exactly the best of the best in the NBA there in that mix.
They had all of their easy games just bunched up in a little 10-game, 9-game stretch here. Oh, that's pretty crazy. Portland was super hot prior to those games. So that, Phoenix, Orlando, there's some stuff there. But for the most part, that's not the hardest stretch. And then again, Philly, they've been down this year. That was a close game. But it's 9-1 in that stretch. They did amazing to come out of that on that way, but the Lakers wind up being the best team they've played in a month. Or almost a month here. So I think that definitely probably presented different challenges for them that they haven't had in quite a while. So
with that, is it misleading that the Nuggets are the 3 seed right now in the Western Conference? We take a look at the standings. There they are. They're the 3 seed, 9 games back of the Thunder running away with everything, but they find themselves a half game back of the 2 seed right now, the Nuggets do. And yet look at that record versus 500 and above. They are 12-14 against above 500 teams. That doesn't bode well for them. And then you look at their record against below 500 teams, 25-6. Look, to their credit, one of the things you have to do to get where you want to go in the standings, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. But wow, the Nuggets are really feasting on the below 500 teams, and the above 500 teams, the quality teams, they're struggling against. So do you see them actually falling then from the 3 seed?
Well, the thing is that we're going to get to this in a minute, but they've got quite the difficult stretch coming up. But I mean, one thing that also stands out to me here is that that's kind of the norm for most of these teams. There's not a lot of big variance for most of these teams versus above 500. I assume it's just the West cannibalizing itself for the most part, aside from a handful of Eastern teams there. And so maybe there's a way to pull up their in-conference record. I think that may be something that you can kind of point to as well. And like we were just talking about, they did have a stretch of really easy games that they were supposed to capitalize on. You play who's in front of you, of course. So can't say anything about that. Every team's going to have stretches like that in their schedule. And I do wonder about that, but overall, maybe there is something to that, but I think that the roster does have some limitations that they didn't have in years past. But aside from that, I think that the big blip on it was just that, last night specifically, Joker just wasn't himself. He wasn't able to score. The Lakers held him in check, and he was very passive in that game. So I don't know if I would expect that to happen in most of the remaining games, and I think that they'd be pretty good down the stretch. Of course, I don't know that this proves that they're not as good as they thought. I think that the Western Conference, those top 6 slots are going to shuffle constantly. They're the 2nd seed going into last night's game. The Rockets, I think, were the 4th seed around the same time. And so I just think that on a nightly basis, these teams are going to shuffle. And as you see, there's only 6 games between 5.5 games between 2nd and 6th. So I think they're around where they should be.
Yeah, I tend to look at this Nuggets team and think, especially after seeing last night's game, I think the lack of depth is hurting them. I think you could see it. The Lakers defense did a great job on Jokic and made other players try to beat them. They swarmed Jokic. Mm-hmm. And, that's been a strength of the Nuggets for years now, has been that when the ball gets kicked out to whoever, role player X on Denver, they just get buckets. They just, especially when they're playing our Lakers, Tony, they hit everything. And that suddenly kind of went away. Michael Porter Jr. was just kind of out there, right? You had other guys that were just not providing the same kind of play. They've got a pretty shallow team. You've got Aaron Gordon, you've got Porter Jr., you've got Jamal Murray, you've got Jokic, and then Christian Brown is pretty good, right? Shooting pretty well, just as a slasher, dunker, that type of guy. But then you look at the rest of the roster, they don't have much of a bench. And I think that's where they start to fall to pieces against the above 500 teams. That's where it starts to really hurt them. And you see they could feast on the below 500 teams because their starters are good enough to beat the below 500 teams. But those few minutes that the starters are off the floor is enough to cost them games against the good teams. I don't think they have the depth that they need this season. And that's been a big part of what the problem here is with Denver. And if that's the case, if that's true, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but if that's true, then the Nuggets are in for some trouble here. They have the 2nd most difficult remaining strength of schedule in the NBA, and that's where it wouldn't shock me if we see Denver finish. I'm not saying they're going to be like a play-in team or anything, but wouldn't shock me if Denver finishes like 5 or 6 or something.
No, out of all those teams, it wouldn't shock me if any of them shuffled to like any spot. I could see the Lakers at 2. I could see them at 6. I could see Nuggets at 2. I could see them at 6. Out of all those teams, just because it's just so tight, right? We saw the Houston Rockets go on a free fall over the last couple of weeks, going all the way down from a pretty healthy 2nd, 3rd seed all the way down. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of the teams shuffle anyway, but the depth of the Nuggets has been a concern the entire season. I mean, that's why there were talks about them potentially turning Michael Porter Jr. because he'd be the guy that they'd probably have to move off of if they wanted to do something, into potentially a Zach LaVine. I don't know if I would have done that. They didn't do it, but maybe into breaking his contract up into a couple of other guys. That's something that you kind of have been dealing with all year with Denver. And they've been able to weather that because they've had great health for the most part. They had a stretch early where they're a little bit unhealthy, and then Gordon was in and out of the lineup, but a lot of their main guys have played 50 plus games for them. And so they've been able to weather it that way as well. And then again, Jokic has been awesome. And then even last night, the Lakers were daring them to take certain guys to take certain shots. And the thing is that those guys actually hit those shots. Gordon was hitting those shots. Russ was hitting those shots. He had a couple wild ones, but he hit a few to really keep the defense honest. But I think that with that game is that I believe they lost the Jokic on minutes. And with the depth on this team, if you're going to lose the Jokic on minutes, you're going to lose the game. And you're so toast. I think that's the problem with this team, is that they're so reliant on Jokic, and to where if a team is able to take him away for one game or whatever, and you don't win those minutes for whatever reason, then I think that's where they could struggle. Now, the good news is I don't know if they're going to, if many teams can employ the exact same strategy. I don't know if that would work again on Jokic. I don't know. It's a one game situation, but I would expect for them and him to most of the time win the minutes he's out there. And that's why they've been able to remain competitive, and I think they would probably continue to do that. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they shuffled anywhere, really. Yeah.
I mean, they definitely could drop down a bit. I think that's something that would not shock me at all, especially if their struggles against the good teams because of, I think, some of the bench concerns and things like that continue. And we're going to find out real fast if that's going to be the case or not. Then this is a team that very well could free fall here. If this is who the Nuggets, and this is what I talk about a lot. Do we buy that this is who they really are? Did the past 9 games represent who the Nuggets really are? No, I'm going to say no. I don't think so. I don't think that's a true representation of what they are as a team. This one game, did that represent either getting blown out by 23? No.
Nope.
But maybe it's a bit more of a cause for concern because it's, again, a struggle against one of the better teams. in the Western Conference. I don't think it's coincidence that right now over on BetUS, the Lakers and the Nuggets have the same championship odds. I think they see these teams in a very similar space. And so now the question becomes, what is Denver the team that ultimately drops? And that's going to be interesting to see. Hey, while we're on it, though, is Jokic the MVP this season? Just as an aside.
I think it's a two-man race between him and Shea, but I think Shea is just so far ahead this time. Like he's dealt with adversity with that team, losing his second best player in Chet for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
They're like 9 games ahead of the pack. Like they're just it's him. And I think on paper, if you were to compare the stats, it'd be Jokic. He's averaging a triple-double, 30 points, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's a two-man race, but I think it's Shea. And maybe it's some of that voter fatigue, but I think Shea completely deserves it because, like I said, they're the number 1 seed far and away, and I don't expect that to change. But the thing is with Jokic, I mean, he's won, 3 of the last 4? I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another one in the next couple of years here. So
sure. It's just the Thunder are so far ahead in the West. They're so far ahead. I think that Shea's going to get credit for that. All right, let's look at the upcoming schedule here for the Nuggets. So we talked about how difficult their schedule is and how much they're going to be running into here. They go on the road now at Indiana, at Milwaukee, at Detroit. And by the way, Detroit, an above 500 team now by a significant margin in the East. At Boston. Now, these aren't second night of back-to-back is Detroit. Sacramento, Phoenix, OKC. Those are huge. Those are huge games. Back-to-back OKC twice in a row. Minnesota, Lakers. Woo! Look at that stretch. OKC, Minnesota, Lakers. What do you see coming through mid-March here for the Nuggets? Like, what's the best case scenario? Can they play 500 ball through this stretch?
Yeah, certainly. I think that they've got some games in there, the OKC stretch, the Boston game. But I think they can win most of the other games on the page here. Maybe Milwaukee is another tricky one, but I think that looks like it's about 500. So I think that's probably what they're going to wind up doing in this stretch, unless they play up to some competition or maybe the opposition, I don't know, has some other things going on. But 500, I think, is pretty reasonable, maybe a little bit above, depending on just what it is. But these are not easy games. Indiana, Detroit, Milwaukee, that's a tough stretch. That Eastern Conference trip that they've got against all those teams, that's a tough stretch. But I think they can win those games. It all just kind of, once again, like we were saying, depends on how Jokic performs. If he's going to take 7 shots and mostly get his points from the free throw line, they're not going to win very many games just in general. But I will say, I do wonder how many of these teams are actually elite offenses. I think the only actual super elite offense that they're going up against here is Boston and OKC, number 3, number 5 in offense respectively, while Denver's number 2. Denver's issue is not the offensive side, it's their defense. So if they're not against the craziest offenses, I think they should have a pretty good chance. They've got the number 17 defense right now, number 2 offense in terms of Denver. But OKC's matches are going to be something else.
Yeah, those are going to be a real challenge.
They are number 1 in defense and number 5 in offense. Net rating wise, obviously OKC, but that's so the Boston OKC games are the ones I'd really, really highlight. I do wonder about that Laker game. I'm curious about the adjustments that they'd make after last night's game, the film, etc., and how that is. And the thing about that is, like I said, the defense for the Nuggets has been a concern. They're, like I said, 17th at the time. But, so many people focused on how would that matchup go specifically with Jokic and his size versus the Lakers. But then the Lakers present a problem that I don't know very many teams can present in having, LeBron and then Luka. That's kind of crazy. And you saw it last night. There was just so many wide open threes, and the way that they historically have defended Luka is by sending 2 to the ball, and they tried to do that. That's what they did in Dallas. They tried to do that last night, but he just carved them up, and he always does that. But when the guy in the corner is LeBron or it's Austin and Rui's having a hot night, Rui started yesterday's game cold, but he had so many open looks that he got a rhythm. I think that's where things kind of if an offense can carve them up like that, I think that's where they would really struggle. And those are the games. There's 2 games versus the Lakers in 5 days there.
Now, both of those are back-to-backs for the Lakers. One of them's first day of a back-to-back, but still, the Lakers have a bizarre stretch right there. Let's say that. They play What did we say? They play six games in 7 days,
7 nights or 8 nights.
It's
something like
unbelievable.
that. The Lakers stretching that area is crazy too. So
Yeah.
Again, my point is that I think they'll mostly be okay. I don't know if their record against good teams is the biggest indicator. Because the way I saw it was that I saw a lot of the Western teams were similar, except for OKC. A lot of them were like around 500, basically, a couple games up, a couple games below. And so if they go through this stretch here and play 500 ball, even if they lose those games against the best teams, they should still come out in a good way.
We're starting to hit a point of the season too, where who you beat and who you lose to is going to matter a ton.
Yeah.
Especially when we've got these games where, the Lakers, the Nuggets, they play each other a few times. They both play the Rockets a few times. They both play the Grizzlies a few times. They play the Thunder a few times. Who you beat is going to matter a bunch when we start getting these teams all playing head to head. And so that's going to influence how the standings finish in the West too. The West is wild, as we predicted. I don't know. Like, if you had to pick right now, where do the Nuggets finish? Let's just do this. 2 through 6. How does it finish? Or should we put? I mean, God, you could probably put Minnesota and Dallas in the mix too.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Like, Dallas will be healthy within a couple of weeks. The reporting around them was that they're going to reevaluate their guys in a couple of weeks, and they're hopeful that they're pretty much fully healthy 2-3 weeks from now. Minnesota probably going to try to go up. Golden State, I think Steve Kerr said they want to target that 6th seed. I got to wonder about the livelihood of that 6th seed for the Clippers
every
right now.
team in the play-in says that.
I don't know, man. This is tricky. 2 through 6. Let's run. Memphis. What's Memphis' strength of schedule? Just really quick.
Yeah, that would probably help. Memphis has the 5th most difficult strength of schedule.
It's just that these teams are playing again. Like, they got to match versus the
Lakers. That's the thing. It's the West teams are all. It's all West teams except for Milwaukee, because all the West teams have to play each other.
Yeah, that's crazy. I bet the bottom is all East teams. But
well, yeah.
Look at Philly down there.
Toronto, Washington, Boston, Philly, Minnesota, right there. I mean, maybe that tells you Minnesota is going to make a run up in the standings here.
Okay, yeah.
Golden State at 22.
Yeah, that's actually important information. Dallas towards the middle.
Houston.
Okay. Well, there's a world where Minnesota can make it up there. It's not far off. I'll just say that I think number 2 will wind up being Memphis. I think that's pretty safe. They've been really good this year, so I'll stick with that.
Okay.
I will go Lakers 3,
Homer.
Nuggets 4. Hey, they got freaking Luka Doncic, man. Like, I'm trying to put
I got it. Nope.
That.
I'm with you.
Nuggets 4. Shoot. Actually, we got to shoot Timberwolves up. Excuse me. Okay, so how about this? Timberwolves 3, Lakers 4, Nuggets 5.
Oh, Wolves going all the way up to 3.
Yeah, they got one of the
jumping up 4 games.
They got one of the easier schedules. Dallas 6.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. I like that. Memphis,
So
Minnesota.
Do you have the Clippers dropping?
Yeah, I do have the Clippers dropping into the play-in range. I think play-in would be the Clippers.
Clippers 5-5 in their last 10. Rockets 3-7.
Clippers, Warriors, Suns, maybe, and Kings, I guess.
And so who's dropping out in that if the Suns are in?
Kings. Did I say Kings?
Kings? Oh, Kings are dropping. Oh, you've got the Kings dropping out.
I think it's Kings, maybe.
Okay. So the Kings.
I don't know at that point, man. All these teams down the bottom are playing 3-7, 4-6. I don't know what's going on with these teams.
Yeah, they're struggling. They're on the struggle bus. I would say Memphis sticks in the 2. I'm going to say the Lakers, their defense has been good. I'll say but they do have such a difficult strength of schedule from here on out.
Yeah, that's
tough.
why I booted them down a little bit.
I'm going to put them at the 3 though, just because they've got enough of a lead here. I think Denver does falter a bit. I'll just flip-flop those 2. Houston's got a little easier strength of schedule, but I'm going to say it goes Lakers, Denver. Houston stays where they're at because they're 3-7 in their last 10. I do have the Clippers falling, so Minnesota moves up to the 6. Clippers fall into the play-in, and I'm going to say AD comes back, and it's Dallas, Clippers, and we get Warriors, Kings again in the play-in.
Warriors, Kings for like the 3rd time.
Yep. And the Phoenix Suns, they start their Kevin Durant trade preparations early.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they start looking at KD trades.
I was hopeful they
mid-April they start talking.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe they do some things and maybe put it together, but maybe I shouldn't be. I might have listed one too many teams, but I like the way that laid out. With yours, I like the potential of the Dallas Mavericks playing against the who would you say, Grizzlies or Thunder in that first round?
Yeah, that could be good.
That could be pretty good. Yeah,
I tell you what, the NBA is praying that they get in round one Lakers Mavs.
Lakers. Oh my God. Talk about two completely opposite teams.
Right?
Like just construction wise.
Yep.
Completely opposite.
Oh my God. Adam Silver would regrow hair if that was the result in round one. If that could be Lakers Mavs, that would be incredible. But the playoff race, of course, something we're going to be keeping an eye on here. The Denver Nuggets, they did not look good against the Lakers last night, finally having to play a decent team, and it showed. So this next stretch for them is going to be critical. They can pick up some wins here against some quality teams, turn things around in that category. That will help to solidify their spot. If not, there is room here for them to drop. If this thing where they can't beat the best teams in the West or the best teams in general, if that continues to be a problem, I look for them to slide down in the standings. But everybody let us know what you think. What do you think? What is the truth about the Denver Nuggets? Are they good, or are they just good at beating bad teams? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel as well. And go check out the video earlier today on Mitchell Robinson, his return to the Knicks, and what that can do to the Eastern Conference playoff race. Till next time, everybody. See ya, and stay safe.